Welcome into QNN Sports. I am Simon Brady, joined by a very special guest, Hooper turned podcast extraordinaire, Matthew Donahue, who formerly played basketball at Quinnipiac University. Now let's take it back to where it all started for you in terms of hoops. You've played AU basketball in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut, so all over the New England AU circuit before eventually going to Quinnipiac and playing basketball. Just take us back to your early memories of playing a few years back, and when the moment or series of moments where it clicked for you, where you could play at an extremely high level and eventually even maybe play at prep school and the college level.
Yeah, so I think I don't know if there was a specific moment, I guess, where it was like I can be a college basketball player. I think that's just kind of how growing up with five older brothers, and I had three of them who went on to play college basketball and another that went to play college soccer. So that competitiveness and I guess that drive is just like in my family. And being the youngest of six boys, it was, that's just kind of how it was. And I think as, going from team to team, and going from tournament to tournament every single weekend since third grade, really playing basketball, and then just, competing and seeing success, I guess, but again, I don't know if there was a specific moment. I think back to middle school, there was, the guys I was playing with at middle school were older. I was playing with high school level guys in middle school, and then so on and so forth. And then I go to prep school, and then the guys that I played with there, all were very good guys too. And I think just collectively playing with good players made me better in part. So I think that's really what helped me get there, was just always being around good talent and playing with good talent.
Yeah, you mentioned that step up in terms of competitiveness once you got to prep school. I know we've talked off air about some of the fun players you've been able to match up against who went on to carve out a pro career and stuff. Can you tell the people some of the coolest matchups you've had and how they made you better as a player?
Yeah, so, well, it's funny because the very first day I got there, and not a lot of people know this about prep school basketball, like specifically the NEPSAC, but it's a very competitive league, and a lot of former players, I've had the opportunity to play against Donovan Mitchell. He's probably the highest profile name. And then, personally playing with at Northfield Mount Herman, got to play with Kellen Grady. I got to play with who's at Kentucky now, or Nate Lazuski, who was at Notre Dame. Thomas Murphy, who was at Northeastern, and then Vermont. And the list just goes on and on. But I think one of the top moments was when I got to play in an open run with Andrew Platek, who graduated the same year as me. He went on to play at North Carolina, and we were both shooters. And we got into in the middle of the game, we got into a little friendly wager of $5 shot for shot on each other. And I ended up winning that, and he never actually paid me for that. So, Andrew, if you're listening, you still owe me the $20 from that game. But that was probably when I look back at my time, again, just a ton of great guys, and that moment specifically always stands out in my head.
Absolutely. So let's fast forward a little bit. You walk on to Quinnipiac. At what point did that come to fruition, and did you always know, being a Connecticut native and starting to rise in the basketball ranks, that was where you wanted to play your college ball potentially?
Yeah, so really the first time I ever was reached out to by Quinnipiac was before I even got to prep school. So I played 3 years of public high school basketball before playing my last two at prep school. And I think early in my freshman year, Coach Moore, who was the former coach here at Quinnipiac, came to one of my games. And at the time, I was playing with my older brother, and I don't think he was really recruiting me that much. But I had a okay game as a freshman, and after the game, he talked to my brother and myself, and that was really the first time I came in contact with Quinnipiac. And then when I went to prep school, 2 years after that moment, they were always just kind of talking with me. And then when it came down to picking a school, prep school, they were unfortunately out of scholarships, but I had visited this school so many times over the course of those 5 years in high school, really. And I knew I wanted to stay locally. And another thing that it almost helped coming to Quinnipiac was that they were out of scholarships, but they were able to give me a scholarship through the business school. And I knew, I wanted to use basketball as a gateway into college. I never really had aspirations of playing professionally after that. So
Right.
it seemed like the best fit for me in what I wanted to do, after school was done.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you get there in 2017 as a walk-on. You're given a scholarship, and you appear in your first game in 2018, January of 2018, against Rider, I believe. Talk about just the emotions of that experience and what that meant to you. I haven't played for so many years, and finally reaching that pinnacle of college basketball, I guess.
Yeah, so it's actually really funny. That game against Rider, I played against Keelan Ives, who is a former guy that my older brother Jackson used to play with in AAU and when we were in Rhode Island. So I knew Keelan really well, and checking into the game for the first time and having him be the guy that I guard and he defends me. Really just made the whole thing, come full circle, because my first AAU team I ever played for was in Rhode Island, and Keelan was one of the first guys I've ever met. So that experience was really cool. And then, yeah, just adding on what you said, just the culmination of everything you've done, and getting to that point and finally checking into the game for the first time. The nerves are definitely there, but then they settle, and then you're just in the flow of the game. But when it's over, it really is just when I look back on it, that's one of the big moments in my basketball career for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So we know you've been removed from playing for a bit, but I just want to ask you, because of the timeliness, how awesome is it for you from your perspective to see a MAC team in St. Peter's just put together the greatest Cinderella run in college basketball history? As someone who is a former MAC player yourself, that's got to be